fly over. But then my girlfriend at the time, she said, hey, I've always wanted to ride my bike down the west coast of the States. So I said, let's do that. That sounds awesome, right? So we rode our bikes down from Vancouver down to San Diego, got to San Diego, and then she had to go back to school. So she went back to Vancouver, and very shortly after, I was gonna keep riding down the coast and just keep going and see what happens, right? But I was lucky enough that someone came along and stole my bicycle. So I lost my bike and I was kind of wandering around and I looked at a marina and I saw a bunch of sailboats coming in and out. And I thought, that'd be kind of neat. So I walked down to the marina. I put up a little poster in the coffee shop in the laundromat there that just said, my name's Mark, I want to go to Australia and I learn quick. And a couple days later, this guy called me up and he says, hey, is this Mark? And I said, yeah. And he says, so I just got this new girlfriend. I want to take her out on my boat down to Mexico to Puerto Vallarta. But I kind of like don't want us doing opposite watches so I never see her. How do you feel about being my assistant, like my deckhand, and taking over watch when I'm not there? And I was like, great. And he was like, you sail much? I was like, never sailed in my life before. I don't even think I've been on a ferry before. So, yeah, but I learned quick, right? So he said, hey buddy, no problem. I'll teach you. And it just so happened that he was actually the teacher at the yacht club there. So jumped on the boat with this guy, said goodbye to land, and off we go. So I had my ticket down to Puerto Vallarta on the Can 2, which was a 36-foot yacht for 3 of us. They were together doing their sailing during the day and other things at night. And pretty much at night is when I would pop up and I'd watch the sails and while they were doing other things, I'd kind of play with the sails a little bit and see what would happen, trying to ride the wind a bit. And it was amazing, like the stars you'd see out there was incredible. And there were whales. The whales were amazing. Pretty much every day we had to change course and turn off like sonar and all these other gadgets just so we didn't interfere with them, right? Like humpbacks coming right beside the sailboat. And then eventually we got down to Mexico and she was seasick the entire time. It was unfortunate. So she wanted to get off the boat pretty quick. So we got to Puerto Vallarta and she got off it wasn't even Puerto Vallarta, it was before Puerto Vallarta. Because she got off the ship and flew back home. They had a great time, don't get me wrong. Like, they're still together from what I understand. She was just sick, so she went home, and then for the rest of the time, this guy was brokenhearted. So he just actually stayed in bed. And all of a sudden, I'm running this 36-foot walk all by myself, like day and night. And 3 days later or something, the guy comes up and he's like, how we doing? I don't know, the ocean's still on the right and the Baja's still on the left. So eventually he came up and he looks at the map and he's like, holy shit, we're almost there. Pulled into Puerto Vallarta, got into the marina, he snapped out of it, and he said, that's as far as I'm going. And I said, all right, friend, I need another boat. And I don't know if you've ever been to a marina. Are there any sailors in here? No? Yeah, we got a sailor? Okay, so if you're a hardcore sailor, I apologize for what I'm going to say, but they're pretty much just floating trailer parks. So the second you cruise in there, everybody knows everybody else's business. So like the second I got off the boat onto the dock, people are like, so you're headed to Australia? And I was like, yes, and so are you, because just everybody knows everybody's business, right? So I met this guy there, Captain Michael. He's an American guy. He ended up redoing a jazz album that got super popular for some reason and made like millions. So he bought this boat. And he was like, hey, I need a hand going over to Tahiti. And I was like, great. He says, how much sailing experience you got? And I said, wow, about 3 weeks. And he says, you ever been into open ocean? I said, nope. And I said, have you? And he said, no. And he said, but don't worry, we've got a third. He's a young German guy your age named Rasmus. And I said, great. Has he been in the open ocean? And he says, nope. But we're all going to learn together. So these 3 idiots got on a boat. sailed off into the big blue, and we didn't see land for 22 days. We were going in the right direction most of the time. So that was the Patanjali, and that was a 45-footer, a Catalina, if anybody cares. Yeah, a really great boat. One of my favorite things was we'd watch the birds, right? Because the birds always know what's going on in the ocean. And the birds would be, they'd be compiling in one place, and there's fish there, there's bait ball of some sort, so we just throw it a couple fishing lines and cruise right through it, and then you'd come up with tuna. And it was great for the first couple days, and then after 3 weeks of eating tuna every day, you kind of in every single way possible, sashimi and sushi and baked and fried and boiled, and any way you could have tuna. But one time we threw the lines out, we were cruising through, and I got a fish on the end, and I was all excited because it felt like a big one, right? So I start reeling it in, and it's fighting a little bit, but I'm getting him in, and then all of a sudden there's this big fight. And then all of a sudden there was no fight. And I thought, I lost him, so I start reeling it in to put new bait on the line. Pull it in, and there's half a fish there, and there's a giant shark bite taken out of the other side. So we caught that. We called that a lucky fish, and we ate it anyway. But it made us think twice, because what we normally did, instead of having a shower if we were going really slow, 5 knots or something, we just tie a rope around our waist and jump off the back and just drag in the water. And it was super fun. We actually called it shark baiting as a joke. But it wasn't so funny after that fish. We still did it. So, again, night watch is my absolute favorite, right? I volunteered for that because you'd be out there by yourself. There's nothing else exists in the world. And on a clear night, you've got every single star in the entire galaxy, above you. And if it was calm water, you have that reflected in the ocean. So you're looking up and down and everywhere, and there's stars everywhere. It was incredible. I got to know the stars pretty good, actually, so you'd always know, this constellation on the west, this one on the east, this one to the north, this one to the south. It was really neat, so you kind of get up and you look around and be like, all right, that's it. All right, we're going in the right direction. This is great. So one day we had kind of low winds, 10-knot winds, and we had the spinnaker up. The spinnaker, it's that big giant sail at the front that you throw up on a pole normally. And we had that spinnaker up, and the wind stayed the same for 5 days straight. So we just left it up for 5 days straight. And that's a good idea because it's the right sail, but it's the wrong idea because if you don't adjust it at all, then the rope rubs on the exact same place for 5 days. And the halyard, the one that holds it at the top, ended up snapping, so this giant frickin' sail goes into the ocean. And you know what a sail becomes when it's in the water? An anchor. So we started listing over real good, and it broke another line, and now the sail's attached by one line. That's our only spinnaker. It's a $20,000 sail or something. And it's tipping our boat over and over, so we tried to pull it back, but it just wasn't working. So what we did is we eventually cut it so we didn't tip. So all our sails in the water, and we're trying to do circles around and pick it up with this little hook thing that he had. It's not working, and we don't want to rip it or anything. So I had an idea. Being a young man, I said, "Captain, I can get the sail." And he said, "Are you going to come back to the boat with it?" And I said, "I got this." So he says, "Go on, young man. Prove yourself." So I jump off the back of the boat beside the sail, start swimming to it. And then my buddy Rasmus, who's always got my back, says, "Mark, safety first." And he goes to throw me a life jacket, and the wind takes it over there. So I'm in the middle of the Pacific now, right in the middle between Tahiti and San Diego, or Puerto Vallarta, where there's absolutely nothing, with a sinking sail in one hand and a life jacket way over there. And of course you stay with the sail because that's what you came to do. So I'm kind of treading water right with one hand, trying to hold the sail up with the other, and the boat goes away and it's leaving because it's making a wide arc to come back for me, right? Just like the man overboard drill we talked about. And it looks beautiful sailing away, and then it turns and starts coming back, and it looks almost beautiful until it starts hitting the waves and bouncing up and down on the waves coming back to me. And I was like, wow, this is the moment I die. But it's been pretty good, you know? At 25, I've done a lot of things. It's all good. I'm never going to Antarctica, so don't know. So the ship's coming towards me, we're bouncing off the waves. And just as it's coming right beside me, I just kind of move to the side and it bounces right here. And I see Rasmus and we look each other in the eyes and I'm like, and I just grab on the side and it bounced so high it yanked me right out of the water with the sail. So the sail comes up. And I look over at Rasmus and he's like, Mark, give me the sail. And I was like, no, take my hand. So Rasmus grabs the sail and he starts pulling the sail in, right? And I'm there hanging on the side of the boat, good thing I'm a climber. And I kind of monkey bar myself to the back and swing on top, and Rasmus has the sail on board now. And then he looks back and he goes, oh, Mark, you made it. That's So then we got this massive sail, right, that's all torn up. So we start sewing it back up because we don't have much wind, and now the halyard's broken, right? So we got to get up to the mast and restring it. So I look at the captain and he says, I'm too old for that. And then we look at Rasmus and he goes, I'm afraid of heights. And then they look at me and I go, I love heights. So I got to climb up the mast, which is really cool because you watch those like old sailing movies and you like, you know, you see the guys climbing up and you're like, wow, that's awesome. At least that's what I thought. So, you know, I climb up the mast and they've got a rope around me just in case. And it's really fun climbing the mast, but when you're at the top trying to retie a line with two hands and all you can hold on to with is your legs around the mast, the top of the mast, because we had like this pretty crappy bosun's chair and the boat's not going anywhere, so it's just rocking back and forth. It wasn't as fun as I thought. I actually had bruises all the way down the inside of my legs and arms for like a week after that. But at one point I did see a giant pod of whales go by and that was really nice. So came down from that, and pretty much everything that could go wrong in a boat did go wrong on that boat. I'm not sure if it was a crappy boat or just the fact that three guys who had never sailed in the open ocean went together. Probably the latter. But everything got fixed that broke, and we eventually made it to Tahiti, and I was on that boat for I think 2 months. It took 5 months in total to get from one end to the other. So, pull into Tahiti, and just like the other marinas, you get there, everybody knows where you're going, I know where everyone's going. Just so happens the boat right beside us, he's going to New Caledonia. Because he just bought this boat right here in Tahiti, and he needs to get home to New Caledonia. Right? It's a French guy. Any French people on the boat? Wonderful. New Caledonia is an island kind of in between Tahiti, like the Polynesian Islands, and Australia. Yeah, so it took 22 days to get from Tahiti to New Caledonia, and we didn't stop anywhere in Tonga or anywhere, because he just like wanted to get home, right? So he buys this boat, we paint it up and everything, and we set sail, just the two of us. So it's Captain, I don't remember his name. That's all right. Anyway, the French captain and me, we set sail and we're going off and life is good and everything, and you know, I got the night watch again, so I'm looking at the stars and everything, I go to bed. And then I wake up for my one watch. Actually, every night before he went to bed, he would say, Mark, don't fall asleep at the wheel. And I'd say, I would never. And every night, I would watch the stars, and I loved it, so I never fell asleep. And every night when I came up from sleeping to relieve him, he'd be asleep in the cockpit. So this guy, one night I come up from actually I didn't even come up, I'm asleep, right? And all of a sudden I'm sleeping now on the wall instead of the bunk, which should be on the floor. I'm this way. And the boat is like, I don't know, almost, let's say like 70 degrees keeled over, you know, because I'm slammed on the wall now, and I'm trying to run up the gangway, kind of the stairs, where you run up on the wall. I get up there, and I see him, and he's on the floor, and I'm like, "You were asleep!" And he was like, "Yeah." So I look around, and the boat's keeled over because this big storm came out of nowhere, just like that hailstorm yesterday, right? This comes out of nowhere and just like knocked our boat right over. We got all our sail up and everything. The guy screwed up really bad. And this is the second time I was like, wow, I'm gonna die. Because like once this boat flips, I mean, sure, you can get rescued, but at the same time you feel pretty alone out there. But we ended up, pulling the sails and dropping the sail really quick, getting the rudder back over, spinning the wheel, all that, and we survived that one. And then for the rest of that night, we storm sailed hard. So normally sailing, you can put like autopilot on and you just kind of like cruise along. And then like when the wind picks up, you actually gotta hold the wheel. Then when it's storm sailing, you're like, the boat wants to be turned sideways and turn over and flip and kill you, but you have to work so hard to prevent that from happening. So you're like really holding on that wheel, right? And it was so hard, we probably did like 20-minute shifts rather than 6-hour shifts like normal. So he'd take the wheel for 20 minutes, I'd take the wheel for 20. And we did that for like maybe 4 or 5 hours. And then it got better and better and better, right? So we did 40-minute shifts, and 1-hour shifts, and 2-hour shifts. And at the end of all this, I was like, wow, that was pretty rough, right? I just had a 20-minute nap. I'm feeling good, he's looking pretty haggard up there. So I go down in the kitchen, and I make some nice fat pancakes. And I've even got a little maple syrup from Canada still that I was saving for a special occasion. So I drizzle some maple syrup on top, and I bring them up, and I'm like, "Captain, you look tired. Let me take the wheel, have a pancake." He looks at me, and he says, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's a pancake." He says, "No! It is a fat crepe!" And he picks up the pancake and he frisbees it overboard. And then he grabs my pancake and frisbees it overboard. And he looks at me and he says, "Take the wheel." And he goes down into the down below into the galley, and I'm like, "Dick." Worked really hard for it. So that's been a maple syrup. Right, so now I'm at the wheel again. Storm's over. It's not super exciting. I'm pretty pissed off. Thinking about abandoning ship on him. And about a half hour later, he comes up. Let me tell you, he's from Bretagne. You guys know Bretagne in France, but they're very famous for their crepes, and they do ham and cheese crepes. And he comes up with a plate of crepes, ham and cheese, and the urge to pick them up was so hard. But then you take one bite and you're like, "Wow, goddamn, these are good." So, yeah, those are my fat crepes. So the rest of the way over to New Caledonia, it was amazing, right? You see the stars, like I said before, and now we're getting some really big bioluminescence in the water, right? So you're cruising along, and the wake off the bow is like green, right? You ever see Life of Pi, that movie? It was almost like that. And there was all these kind of funny creatures. You'd see spirals of green under the water. They must have been jellyfish or something. I ended up asking locals in New Caledonia, I was like, "Hey, what are those like green spiral things you see at night?" And they were like, "You're crazy, that doesn't exist." But anyway, we had a great time. We finally got to New Caledonia. He went home. He's got this new boat. And of course, I'm not quite there yet, so I need to keep going. So pretty quickly in that marina, met another guy, this old British guy. Turns out that he used to teach in the Navy, and he was an incredible sailor. He had this 52-footer that he called Scratch. And him and his wife had been sailing around the world just like non-stop for 10 years. And she actually passed away 2 years before. So now he sails alone. And I met him, and he says, "So you're going to Australia?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Me too." I said, "Okay." And he says, "Do you play Scrabble?" And I was like, "Yeah." He says, "Are you good at Scrabble?" And I was like, "Yes. My grandmother taught me well." And he says, "Name 4 words that are 2-letter words." And I started with Joe, J-O, Scottish sweetheart. I didn't have to say any more. He said, "You're on." So So we set sail for Australia, and we set off, and he actually didn't even need me. Like, we had watch times, and he was supposed to just come and wake me up when he wanted to change, and some days I woke up after like a 16-hour sleep, and I'd be like, dude, it's fine, you can wake me up, and he was like, it's fine. I've been doing this alone for years, so he didn't actually need me, but every day he played Scrabble, and every day he would beat me really bad, except for once. I beat him by 20 points, and he didn't talk to me for the rest of the I also asked him how to use a sextant, and he said, that's ridiculous, that's old technology, no one uses those anymore. Here's a GPS, learn how to use that. So that was really nice of him. And the last little bit when we were coming into Australia, there's the Great Barrier Reef, and there's these little channels to go through the reef, and we're going through one of them, and the wind was kind of at a bad angle, so we're tacking back and forth, going across. And there's this giant container ship coming out into the sea, kind of coming at us. And we're going across, and we're getting close to this boat, and we're like, okay, it's a big Russian container ship, that's cool. Let's just do one more tack, right? So we call on the radio, and we're like, hey, giant ship, we're just going to do one more tack, then we're going to stay on your port. And the guy picks up the mic and he goes, do not cross my bow. We will crush little boat. And knowing what I know now, after working with these Russians, he was just being helpful. But I took it quite offensively. I thought he was trying to kill us, right? So we didn't tack over, we stayed on his starboard. He went by, life is good, hunky-dory. We made it to Australia finally. I was so happy to be on land, and then 2 days later I got a job on a dive boat and didn't see land again for like another 6 months. And that's my sailing story. Thanks for coming out. If you have any questions, I can take them now, and if you don't, then we'll plug the music back in.
How are you still alive?
That's a wonderful question, and I haven't even told you the story of the other 10 times I thought I was dead.
I'll just rephrase that. You should not be alive.
Thank you very much.